This is the wrong song. No. Get the right song on. This team continues to show a complete lack of passion, of discipline, of finish, just desire to win. Like there's seemingly no desire from this hockey team right now to go out and win a hockey game. What an excellent first period. Honestly, a fantastic first period. 3 goals from 3 guys who you want to be scoring goals for you. Ilya Mikheyev, JT Miller, Andrei Kuzmenko. And they allow 2 goals to Gross. Like, what is going on here? I don't know if it's an issue with the goaltending or if it's the defense. Here's a hint, it's both. Or if the Canucks just need to score more than 3 goals when they're able to put up, 46 shots in a night? The same as they did against Anaheim. Against Anaheim, they scored 8 goals off 46 shots. If you're going to put up 46 shots, you better score more than 3. And your goalie better make some saves. But they go out in a shootout, and they get nothing done there. They play for the 1 point. Sure, the point's great. But at some point, you're going to fall too far behind the 8 ball. This team is now 3-6-3. When everything went to hell last year, they were 7 games below 500. They're still only 3 games below 500, but this would have been a really nice one and basically a free game to have gone out and gathered 2 points and to have gotten only 2 games away from 500. Because to win, or not to win, but to make the playoffs, you're going to have to be about 12 games above 500, right? You're going to have to put up 94, 95, 97 points was the bar last year. So let's say you have to be 15 games above 500, right? That's not what we're seeing here. We're not seeing that at all. We are seeing a team that just doesn't have any finish, that doesn't have any will to take a game across the finish line. And 2 nights ago in Anaheim, they did take it across the finish line here against a John Gibson who is playing absolutely terribly and a bad Anaheim defense. But they go up against Nashville, a team who they're supposed to beat. Right? They were favored. Canucks were minus 135 on the betting lines. Not that I'm advertising gambling. But the Canucks were the favorites coming into this game. They had won 3 of their last 4. Right? They had a chance to win 4 of their last 5, be 2 games away from 500, and start to make a push. Right? Start to replicate, teams that are going on these runs and show that they are actually a good team and outscore their problems. The problem is the Canucks defense came out showing the problems that they had, but the offense did not go and outscore those problems. And they tried, they scored, or they didn't score. They had 46 shots. I'd be interested to see what the actual expected goals were on those 46 shots. I think they were probably fairly decent. UC Saros had a terrible first period. They came out to play the rest of the way. But if you're going to put out 33 shots in the second, third, and overtime, you can't be getting shut out on those 33 shots. You just can't. As a team that is desperate for every single point they can get, it's not acceptable. And it was so predictable. If you were here, if you opened this live stream after the first period, when I published it, I got it all set up. What I've started to do is I've started to put in the title my 2 alternative titles that I'm going to have. Because there's a short title and then 2 slashes, then Canucks versus Predators, in this case, post-game. And I had 2 titles there ready. I said, Canucks win 4 of last 5, or Canucks blow 3-goal lead. Because I knew it was a possibility. You go back to any of the past few years where they weren't blowing 2-goal leads seemingly every night, or in this case, a 3-goal lead, I would have thought that they probably had this game in the bag. But no. They continue to blow leads. This team has no resilience. They have no drive to finish what they start. They go out, they score 3 goals on a goalie who's not playing great. Fantastic. The goalie's not playing great. Make it 5. Make it 6. Don't just sit on the 3 goals that you have, not have many high danger chances after that, and just rest on a 3-goal lead, hoping that your defense, which is bad, will be able to prevent the other team from matching it. And guess what? They did. So let's go over this game. Let's go over it. It's a very quick recap. I don't have much here. 2 minutes in, Canucks score their first goal. Nice zone entry from Quinn Hughes. Leaves Mikheyev a bunch of room down the left wing. He fires it in that perfect sort of golden ratio, like 20 inches off the ice, like perfectly between the pad and the glove. Squeaks through Saros, 1-0. Less than 2 minutes later, they had another. It's JT Miller. A beautiful steal by Bo Horvath on the forecheck. Feeds Höglander. He's stopped, but a juicy rebound, a UC rebound, you might say, but it's less fun since they lost. That pun that I put together goes right on the tape of JT Miller. He makes it 2-0. And then JT Miller's just trying to breakaway. His shot gets stopped, but the Canucks go into their first power play after killing 2 penalties. The Canucks killed 2 penalties. They still lost. And it's JT Miller finding Kuzmenko with his stick on the ice, backdoor. He's basically chase on, but a million times better. Taps it home, 3-0. Canucks are 9 of their last 15 on the power play. They lost this game after scoring the first 3 goals, but I digress. Let's go to the second period. Tyler Myers takes a not a dumb penalty. This was not on Tyler Myers. This was a terrible call. Normally, I try not to complain about officiating because the team's too bad for officiating to matter. But a hit in the numbers from Jeannot on Ethan Bear. Sure, it's open ice. It's not against the boards, but it's still a hit to the numbers. Tyler Myers immediately goes after him. That's what is supposed to be done, especially on a team that's struggling to gel as a cohesive unit. You need to stand up for each other. So Myers immediately goes after Jeannot and somehow gets an instigator penalty. And on the ensuing power play, Gross scores. It's a Gross call. It's a Gross goal. It was just a tip in. Now it's 3-1. They're not done. Third period, Gross gets his second of the night. Just a minute in. It's a long point shot. It's just a long point shot. It's a shot from the point. It's a wrist shot. It's not a slap shot. It's not 100 miles an hour. It's like 80 mile an hour wrister, maybe 70 mile an hour. And Demko misses it. He just misses it. It's another Gross goal for Gross. And it's 3-2. And then less than 2 minutes later, 2:41 into the third period, Niederreiter scores. He gets just 2 free whacks at the puck in tight. There's no defenseman in sight looking to make a play. Riley Stillman is literally just standing there. Like, what is the defense doing? What is Demko doing? Why can't this team make a single defensive play? It's unreal. So the last 17 minutes go by in the third period. Canucks get in a shell in the last 5 minutes or so, just trying to force overtime, secure the point. By the way, this is a team that needs every 2 points they can get. Maybe they shouldn't be trying to survive until overtime. Although, sure, the point's nice, but, it's just boring hockey. We go to overtime, and it's sloppy. There's giveaways each direction. Horvat has a nice steal. They shoot it wide. The Duchesne gives it up. Johansson gives it up. It's just giveaways the entire overtime. It's a mess. So we go to the shootout. Elias Pettersson tries the Forsberg. It's a perfect move, but it rolls off his stick. I have no blame for Elias Pettersson here. It's a move that beat the goalie that 90% of the time he's going to finish. And if he does finish this, maybe it's a different hockey game. Maybe the Canucks do get the extra point. Granlund tries to go 5-hole, but kind of slow, and Demko sort of sprawls out, so there's no room. Miller does his classic slow to the left side, trying to find a place to shoot the puck. He tries to go 5-hole, doesn't work, whatever. Again, no real problems with that Miller play. It works half the time when he does those slow walk-ins down the left-hand side. Sometimes he'll find the spot, sometimes it won't. And then Duchesne scores the quick shot 5-hole, and then it's Bo Horvat. A chance to tie the game, and he skates in, and it just rolls off his stick at the top of the circle. Not even, just inside the blue line. Bo Horvat's been great. He scored 11 goals, or 10 goals this year. But there's no excuse for that. There's no reason as an NHL hockey player to just lose the puck skating on a shootout. I wouldn't do that. And I play D-League house. It sucks, right? And again, not like he meant to do it. It's a little mistake that maybe doesn't even cost the team the game. What costs the team the game is bad goaltending, bad defense. But at least they get a point, right? I guess. So, let's go into the pluses and minuses. Pluses are actually pretty good because I noted them all down after the first period. Andrei Kuzmenko keeps scoring. That's great. He is literally chase on, but better. The power play on that point is unstoppable. Like sure, they only go 1 for 4 tonight, but their first power play they score on, and they ended up being, I think, 9 of their last 15 at that point. This power play is clicking at a rate that is obviously unsustainable, but it's sort of balancing out how bad the penalty kill is. By the way, penalty kill went 80% tonight. That is unprecedented for this Canucks team. 1 for 5 on the power play, the Nashville Predators. Still not great. I mean, they still don't go perfect on a penalty kill again, but 80% ain't bad. And by the way, the first 3 of those Canucks penalty kills, they only allowed 1 shot. That was fantastic. I thought Ethan Bear was really good tonight. The Canucks had lots of shots, right? 46 shots. That's fantastic. But you need more high danger chances. If we take it to natural stat trick, Canucks expected goals at all strengths. Second period was their highest. They had 2 expected goals. They didn't score on a single one, but at 5v5, 0.92 in the first, and then they fell off 0.63, 0.56 in the third. So they regressed throughout the game. Third period, right? The third period has been a real topic of conversation for this hockey team. They went 29.9% of expected goals in the third period. They got outshot on the Corsi in the third period. They got outshot in the game itself, 15-13 by Nashville. And in a game where the Canucks were not trailing, but tied for most of the third period, again, they got outshot. They got outscored in the third period. They got outchanced at high danger. High danger chances in the third period were 5-4 in favor of Nashville. Not a big difference, but still, this Canucks team routinely gets outplayed in the third period. I don't understand what it is. I don't understand how they can be the better team through 2 periods and by a pretty heavy margin and then just get outplayed in the third period. Like there's no, like I said, there's no resilience. There's no drive to come out in the third period as the better team. The Nashville's not a great team. The Canucks should be better than Nashville. Again, if you ignore maybe the first 11 games of the season. Maybe especially the first 7, let's say. But for this team to just go out and just get beat in the third period, like it's just so typical at this point. And it's so frustrating because the Canucks can go into a third period up by 2 goals and you know in your head that it's only a 50-50 shot that they win. Like, that's just absurd at this point. Minuses. Thatcher Demko. I've tried to withhold my criticism from Thatcher Demko as much as possible. Because he's been so good for this team. Something's off. I mean, you know, he comes into this game, sure, 3 goals on 30 shots. It's not bad. It's a 900. But this is not the Thatcher Demko that we are used to seeing. We're used to seeing a Thatcher Demko that steals games. A game like this, where Nashville has 30 shots, the Canucks score 3 goals, Thatcher Demko of last year and the year before is only allowing a single goal, regardless of how the defense plays. And the Canucks pull out a win here. And that's been the case a few times this season. And I have continuously said he'll figure it out. At some point, the moral victories, like I have said, you know, they're not good enough. The Canucks have a back-to-back as their next 2 games. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I can pull it up. The Canucks play Tuesday and Wednesday, so they get a nice little 2-day break. They travel to the East Coast. They have Ottawa on Tuesday, Montreal on Wednesday. After that, they have Toronto on Saturday, Boston on Sunday. It's 2 back-to-backs in a row. We will be seeing Spencer Martin twice and Thatcher Demko twice. If Spencer Martin puts up 2 outstanding games, I mean, who knows at this point, right? I mean, Demko can't make a save. He's at an 870 coming into this game. He puts up a 900 this game, so that's not going to change much. He was at 876, so maybe he's like an 882 now. It's not good enough. He's now 1 6-2 this season. Other minuses. The Canucks blew another lead. Obviously, we've talked about that a lot. Riley Stillman is not it, folks. He just is not it. Riley Stillman is he's not better than Kyle Burroughs. He's not better than Jack Rathbone. He just flat out isn't. And it's not that close. Let me see if I can sort this by expected goals. Oh my God, it's worse than I thought. At 5v5 tonight, when Riley Stillman was on the ice, the Vancouver Canucks expected goals for percentage was a measly 16.5%. That's atrocious. Meanwhile, Luke Shen, 76.66. There is no way. Let's take it to all strengths. Let's see if it was, 20.7% at all strengths. It's unacceptable. Like I don't understand why Riley Stillman is in the lineup over someone like Kyle Burroughs. And if you want to keep it to the left side, then why isn't Jack Rathbone in the lineup? What, you can't trust him defensively? While Riley Stillman was on the ice, the Canucks had only 5 shot attempts the entire game. The lowest by 4. Because when Josh was on the ice, the Canucks had 9. When Studnicka was on the ice, in just his 8.5 minutes, the Canucks had 9 shot attempts at all situations. But when Riley Stillman was on the ice for his 12 minutes, at least per natural stat trick, he might have had actually more in the game that hadn't been completely tracked. Nope, 12-14. That's all he played. The Canucks had 5 shot attempts, but 15 against. When you could have someone like Jack Rathbone who can at least, maybe he's just as bad defensively, but there's no way he's as bad offensively. But I don't even think he is as bad defensively. I think Jack Rathbone's a good hockey player. There's literally zero reason for Jack Rathbone to not be in the lineup at this point. And there's zero reason for Kyle Burroughs not being in the lineup at this point. Kyle Burroughs has been one of the Canucks' best defensemen. Consistently. Like, he's been a consistent number 4. Maybe even if you call him a consistent number 6, that would make him the third best defenseman on the Canucks right now. I don't understand why people like Riley Stillman are in the lineup over Kyle Burroughs, over Jack Rathbone. Meanwhile, Vasily Podkolzin gets scratched, which is a little questionable. Jack Studnicka, keep in mind, only playing 8.5 minutes. Dakota Joshua playing 10.5 minutes. I thought Joshua was good. Neil Zoman playing 10:26. But like, if you're going to go out and play a guy like Studnicka 8.5 minutes, like, surely you can shuffle some things around and get Podkolzin in, right? Because keep in mind, he played 8.5 minutes. The Canucks were ahead by 3 goals, and then by 2 goals. The Canucks were ahead by 2 goals for 24 minutes of this game. It's honestly just sad. So the Canucks go to 3-6-3 at this point. 9 losses out of 12 games so far this year. And sure, they've won 3 of their last 5, I guess. But, one of those games was against Seattle. And sure, Seattle's been on a bit of a heater. Good on them, right? They're second in the Pacific, which is mind-boggling. But one of those games was against Pittsburgh, which at the time seemed impressive. Pittsburgh's lost 7 in a row. Right? And the Canucks just lost to the Nashville Predators, the 6th team in the Central Division. It's silly at this point. It's just silly. All right, time to go to the people? I think so. Let's pull up the comment machine. We might keep this kind of short because we're already 20 minutes in of me just venting. Stuart saying we played super hard in the first, might have actually fatigued towards the end. That's also not an excuse. And I understand where you're coming from. Maybe that is the case. Maybe the Canucks were fatigued towards the end of the game. Then go work on your cardio. You are NHL hockey players. who are playing, the best players played 22, 23 minutes. Lots that's in overtime, though, right? 2 minutes each in overtime for the best players. Maybe you're playing between 18 and 20 minutes of regular time. You should not be fatigued to the point of throwing the game away. Gus saying the Canucks make a goalie look like a Vezina Trophy candidate after a rough start. Look, Saros is a good goalie. He played really bad in the first period. But typically when goalies are playing really bad, they don't figure it out that easily, right? Typically, they don't save the next 30 shots or whatever the number was that he did save in this game. It looks like it just updated. The Canucks had a shot taken away. They only have 45 shots now, by the way. The Canucks had 13 shots in the first period. They had scored their 3 goals. So that's at least 32 consecutive shots. Sure, throw in the shootout ones. 34 consecutive shots that UC Saros saved. You got to finish. You got to score a goal once or twice. JC saying after Myers got called in that probably bad call, it was a bad call. The Canucks collapsed. Yeah, they quit. They completely quit. Which, again, is just completely unacceptable. Like, you can't... This team isn't good enough to quit. This team isn't, they haven't won 8 out of 13 games. And you can't be like, they quit in this one, it sucks, but hey, they'll be back in the next one. No, this team has already put themselves behind the 8 ball. They need every single point that they can get. They have 9 points through 12 games. They need to have probably 97, let's go off of last year, 97 points by the end of the season. Let's do some easy math, right? 97 minus 9, that's 88 points. They need 88 more points, and they have 70 games left. So they need 1.26 points per game. So they need to basically win half and a quarter of those games. So they need to win, what's that, 35 and then a quarter of 70. So 47 of those games. That math seems a little odd. No. Basically they need to win 47 of those games. No, that can't be right. They need to win like 40 of those games. No, 40 wouldn't be enough. 45 would be 90 plus the 3 wins already would be 96. They need to win 40 more games. They have 70 to go. Good luck. Like, this team has not showed that they are going to win 40 of the next 70 games. Dave, you saying not sure the goals on Demko are really that savable? That's that gross goal at the top of the first period, that wrist shot from the point. I mean, you got to find a way to get in front of it. That Niederreiter goal where he was able to just walk in and have a couple whacks. Sure. Maybe that's not on him. But the problem is that Demko hasn't this season earned the benefit of the doubt, right? With how Demko has played in his first handful of appearances, he has been allowing more goals than average, right? He's been, he's just been allowing more goals than expected at all situations. And Demko has shown himself to be a goalie that is better than average over the past couple of years. So he has not been up to that snuff. Demko of the last couple of years finds a way to make a couple extra saves. Even if the average goalie, you reasonably would say, he couldn't have had that one. Demko has made crazy, miraculous saves day in and day out for this hockey team the last 2 years, and he's not doing that at this point. And that is the difference in some cases, right? Like, those miraculous saves are extremely important. Let's see here. Jeremy saying, I don't know if there's a hard team to watch right now. It's the most depressing team I've seen since 86. Well, I wasn't around 86. But it is sure depressing. And it was depressing last year too. But last year, the promises were lesser, right? The promises were a team that, was like pushing for the playoffs, But this year, they were supposed to be a playoff team. And that isn't what we've seen, which makes it depressing, right? It's the dichotomy of what we expected that makes it hurt more, right? That's the problem. BL Tubes, Bear for 5th seems like a steal. I agree. He has been good. I mean, you look at Bear's history, right? He was a top 4 defenseman in Edmonton and then gets hit by COVID. Long COVID basically takes him out for a long period of time, and he regressed a lot from there. But, you know, he got his spot taken in Carolina. He has been better this year and at least decent for the Canucks. But if you have a guy who's in the lineup and can make some offensive plays and maybe bring some life to the team for a 5th-round pick, that's great. And then you're also agreeing with playing Stillman over Rathbone and Burroughs being bad. I agree. I fully agree. Jaskrin saying Parker, the game was just gross. I mean, yeah, true. Good point. I don't know if there was a pun intended with Gross scoring a couple of goals. What's his first name? Jordan Gross? Gross. Alex saying trade Myers, Pearson, JT Miller, OEL, and start rebuilding. I mean, I still think this team is better than... I think the sum of their parts is better than how they've been playing, which is a problem because teams that are competitive need to be better than the sum of their parts. But this team just plays kind of slow and lazy with players that are really, really good. You look at Elias Pettersson, right? Elias Pettersson has 15 points this year. JT Miller's over a point a game as of right now. Quinn Hughes is putting up a ton of points. Andrei Kuzmenko has 7 goals in 12 games. Bo Horvat has 10. And this team is 3-6-3. Like, the defense is just such an absolute failure. And we thought coming into this year, this Canucks team would just need to outscore the defense. That's hard when the defense is this bad. Alex saying buy out the OEL contract. I don't think that helps much. Dogwood saying power's still out. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, last night was crazy. Excuse me. I had to listen on radio. Imagine how bad the game went. It went bad. It went bad. Scott saying, why not Kuzmenko instead of Miller in the shootout? JT Miller is historically pretty good in shootout. I don't know if there's a way to find his stats. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up here. There doesn't seem to be a good way to find how someone is in the shootout. But I'm sure as heck trying. But he is historically, like I've said, he's been good in shootouts. So I don't hate the idea to go with him, right? In his career, he's 40% in shootouts. He's 9 for 23 coming into this game. Last year, he was 3 for 7. That's fine. Keep in mind, he went like 6 years in a row without scoring in a shootout, right? So if you take those out, as a Canuck, he's like 50%, just under 50% by a couple of goals. Like, JT Miller's fine in the shootout. I don't have a problem with that. Kucherov, this team's mentally weak and soft as heck. Opponent scores a goal, this team suddenly starts panicking, making self-errors all over the place. Demko can't make a big save to help the team. Fully agreed. Fully agreed. Joshkin saying the power play goal we let was trash. Shouldn't have been a power play for the Preds. I hate the call. Yeah, it's a bad call, but again, at one point, the Canucks need to have a power play that converts every time for one night. Just one night. And again, they don't get there. Josh Grant, do you think it would have been a different story if Martin was in net? I mean, that changes so much, right? I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It might have. I think Martin's been playing better than Demko so far this year. But again, Demko's still your starting goalie, right? Like, he's still coming into this year as a top 10 goalie in the league. He needs to figure it out. Like, he just has to figure it out. And I don't know what it takes to get there, what it takes for him to figure it out, but it needs to happen. Dogwood saying, next time if the Canucks play the third period to start the game. Oh, so you want them to be down 3-0 after 1? You think they're going to come back from that? I don't know. Quadro saying, remember last year the Canucks always had a terrible first 20? Well, they fixed that issue this year. They swatted the last 20. Maybe they're just daylight savings. Daylight savings ends tonight. Maybe that fixes it. The extra hour, or we're losing an hour. Maybe that brings the Canucks back to being bad in the first period and good in the third. Natasha saying, agree, they're playing without passion or seemingly a drive to win, but I don't understand why. What causes a whole team to lose competitive drive like that? I don't know. There's all this talk about culture, which is sort of a buzzword that is hard to define, right? It's so easy to say, the culture's bad or whatever. The speech Kevin Bieksa gave on Thursday night, I think summarized things very well when he said, culture is basically everyone wanting to be the best at their craft, right? If you're an energy guy, you're the guy going and winning board battles. Well, your job is to be in the gym on your spare time, have the best cardio, have be the strongest. Maybe it gives you a 5% edge in those board battles, and maybe it helps you score or helps your team score a goal every once in a while. If you're the guy that's tipping pucks in front, don't just show up when it's mandatory, right? Before practice, tip 40 shots on goal, right? Get even better. If you're a shooter, if you're a goal scorer, be out there before practice. Put 100 pucks on net before the game starts. I don't think this team has that. I think this team is coasting on who they are. And, it's frustrating. I don't know how they get away from that. Because it's the way they were last year, whether their coach was Travis Green or Bruce Boudreau. I don't think it's a coaching thing. I think it's just the guys in the room not caring enough. And I don't know how to fix it because it's poisonous, right? It's toxic. You have a couple guys who, if your best players are guys who aren't putting in the extra effort, well, do you think the guys who are playing 8 minutes a night are going to be putting in that extra effort, right? Meanwhile, if you look back to the Canucks from 12 years ago and you look at guys like, the Sedins and Burrows and Hamhuis and the best players on the team going out and putting in that extra effort, right? Kessler, as a good example, hitting the gym harder because he wants to win those battles. When those fourth line guys look at that, they're going to see that and be like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I'm supposed to be putting in the extra effort, honing my craft. But I don't think that's the vibe that the Vancouver Canucks have right now. And I think it's poisonous, right? It just takes a couple of guys to have a negative attitude or a negative mindset. And it's so easy for that to spread across the team. And I think it's killing this hockey team, right? And it's going to force this team to have to make some big moves that on paper they shouldn't have to make. What else we got? I wonder if how much is there that I want to go with. Gus saying Rathbone will not harm the team. Zero risk of playing over Stillman. You're absolutely right. Like I said, you're 100% right. Wolfgirl saying Podkolzin needs to play. Rathbone needs to play. I don't know what garbage this is. I don't hate pulling Podkolzin out for a night, but a guy like Jack Rathbone, I think there's no excuse, especially with how mediocre, bad Riley Stillman has been. There's no reason for Jack Rathbone to not be in the lineup. I mean, I said it during my video when Dickinson got traded a month ago, because I went back and I reviewed that video. I said, this just feels like something that's going to get in Jack Rathbone's way, right? The acquisition of Riley Stillman. And I apparently was right, and Riley Stillman hasn't been worth it. Quadro say there's a lot of questions on the fatigued, which I agreed. What else do we got? Philip. I haven't seen you here before, Philip, I don't think. Welcome. I don't think it's fatigue. Mental concentration is lacking. They weren't able to connect passes and make plays during the third period. Yeah, no, it's not fatigue. I don't, giving up isn't fatigue, right? Giving up is giving up. Giving up is a lack of effort. Giving up is a lack of desire to get the job done and trying to coast. It's mental fortitude, but I don't even, is it mental fortitude or is it just laziness? Right? Like it's ridiculous. MVD saying something wrong with the ice. PD and Coos fan in OT. PD and Horvat fan in the shootout. Rogers Arena has notoriously had pretty mediocre ice across the NHL. If you look up like best ice in the NHL, you will not find Rogers Arena, which is shocking considering, it's a cold market, right? It was like 8 degrees outside at the peak of today, maybe 10. You should be able to have good, hard ice. But the Canucks have never had the best ice in the league, which isn't the worst thing, right? I mean, both teams play on the same ice and you can get used to it, but that's just the way it is. Wolf saying at this point, I just want them to lose, have a god-awful season come in last or next to last. Very tired of the mediocrity. Oh, well, buckle up, because I bet we're going to see a handful of wins for every handful of losses for the rest of the year. It's just the way this team works. Allison saying, who's running the team with who's in the lineup? Doesn't look like Bruce has control. It's Bruce's team. I mean, at the head coaching level, it is Bruce's team. He is the one who decides who is in or out of the lineup. And we can disagree with his thoughts all we want. He gets a lot of benefit of the doubt based on last year. And I mean, it's kind of a known thing that he won't be the head coach come next year. Because Jim Rutherford and Alvin don't seem to be speaking too highly of him. So, I mean, criticizing the coach doesn't even really get us anywhere because he's not going to get fired because they don't have 3 coaches on the books. And I don't know. I think he's making some iffy decisions, but I think they're decisions that almost every coach in the NHL would seem to make because they always seem to lean on the veteran side, right? They always, they never want to put the young defenseman in at risk of him making a mistake and it coughing up a goal. Meanwhile, Riley Stillman does that on a night-by-night basis. So, I don't know. JR also saying that management's involved with lineup decisions instead of the best lineup. I wouldn't get it, though. Why would management be involved? And if they were, why would they be pushing Riley Stillman? Like, it doesn't add up to me. Trevor Pruner saying Stillman for a second looking even worse. Stillman for a second looking even worse now. Stillman was not the return for the second. The return for the second was the $1.35 million in cap space for the next 2 years, or $1.3 million in cap space for the next 2 years. Stillman was a throw-in from Chicago that the Canucks thought maybe they could turn into something, but that second round pick was not for Riley Stillman because Riley Stillman's probably worth like a 6th in this league. What else do we got? Philip saying the Canucks play badly when they keep fumbling the puck with little to no pressure on them. No plays, lots of turnovers, can't sustain the attack. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's really no excuse for them. MVD sort of criticizing Miller's 3 breakaways, that he wasn't creative on any of them. He's not a deker. He's a shooter. He's got a great shot. Saros was just the better guy tonight. That's all it is. Trevor Pruner, which player would you play or would you trade for a top 4 D-man? Well, who are you getting a top 4 D-man for, right? I mean, wingers might not even get you a top 4 D-man at this point. So, you might want to say Garland or Besser, but are either of them getting you, maybe Besser does, maybe Besser does get you a top 4 D-man, but probably not a top 2, right? We're probably talking about a 3rd or a 4th D-man, which isn't really ideal. So, I don't know. Jam Rocks, great start, but man, the shootout was brutal. Was there live tonight, came from out of town. Pros least Kuzmenko stays hot. Bear looked really good. Yep, Bear looked good. I love seeing Kuzmenko put up points. They're gonna have to pay him next year, but back up the Brinks truck. I love Kuzmenko. I don't really care about shootout losses that much because the shootout is such a crapshoot. But it's really the way the Canucks played in the third period that bothers me much more so than losing in a shootout. Every point matters, of course, but that's losing in a shootout is it's kind of fluky usually, right? It's 3 shots that it all comes down to for that extra point. But the Canucks just got outplayed in the third period, as they continue to do, which is unacceptable. Symphony saying, looks like McKayev still hurt. His speed hasn't been as advertised. You got to keep in mind, his speed, like you think of the speed of these players, like maybe he's a couple kilometers an hour faster than the other players. You only really make a visible difference when you have a long skate to make that difference on. He had a couple plays where he got some extra space. His goal, he got basically probably an extra step based on his speed. And then there was the other play where he sort of came in down the middle. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he did break free a little bit twice tonight. So I'd have no real problems with McKayev. I mean, he scored a goal. All right, game's not on him. Coach Rob saying we get an extra hour of sleep tonight. I guess we do. I was thinking we lost an hour, but the extra hour will be nice. Because the clocks go back an hour, which means we gain an hour of sleep. All right. Let's see what else we got. I think, we're 42 minutes in here, folks. Hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Make sure you're subscribed. You guys know the deal at this point, but I think we are going to wrap up because I'm exhausted. It's 10:44. I played 2 hockey games today back to back, so I'm just dead. Like I said, if you enjoyed the show, hit like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Canucks next game is, like I said, on Tuesday, 4 p.m. against the Senators. So hopefully we will be live here at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. When that game is over, they go back to back. They go against the Habs on November 9th, the Wednesday. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. If you missed any part, you can rewind back to the beginning. It'll be live on your favorite podcast platform in a matter of about 15-20 minutes. Just search for Parker's Pucks and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You guys know the deal at this point. Other than that, have a good night. Go Lions tomorrow. Lions in the West semifinal against the Calgary Stampeders. I will be there. So if you see me there, wave, say hi. And other than that, I will talk to you all on Tuesday. See you later.